Another edition of History and a Drink. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Frank. And tonight we're going to be looking at Florida sports teams, the professional sports teams, because Florida is really known for a lot of sports, especially at all levels, high school, college, and in the pros.
Yep.
So I wanted to start off with the team that I think defines Florida.
Okay, so, and not only that, but sports, obviously we've got, when we're talking sports, we're talking about the big four. And actually, before we even get started here and talking about things, the more important part of this is our drink for the night. So what is our cocktail for the evening?
So to go with the team that we're talking about, we're having the Unbeeten Salty Dolphin.
Oh, all right. Cheers, my friend. Delicious, delicious.
Ooh, that's good.
So the Unbeeten Salty Dolphin actually goes with one of our teams. And once again, in sports, we're talking about the big four.
Yeah.
That is football.
Yep. Baseball, basketball, and hockey.
Excellent.
Now, there's soccer nowadays.
Yeah.
And there is a ton of college sports.
Right.
And then we have a myriad of minor league teams for hockey and baseball and all of that kind of stuff as well.
But tonight we're just going to talk about the pro teams and some of the history with those.
So the first team that I want to look at is the Miami Dolphins,
which is our drink for the night.
Yep. Now, I always thought that the Miami Dolphins were one of the original teams in the AFC.
Right.
They're not. They're not. They are an expansion team. So they came into the AFC in 1965 with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Yeah. So that was the thing, is as they would have an expansion team come out, obviously they would have to have two to balance out the league and do that. So really teams would have sister or brother teams. And so the team was the Cincinnati Bengals. It's awesome. Yep. And
then in 1970, when the NFL was created from the NFC and the AFC, we see that they stayed in the AFC, the American Football Conference, and they all the teams that were originally in there stayed with them, and then they got three from the NFL, which were the Colts, all right, in Baltimore, the Browns out of Cleveland, and the Steelers out of Cincinnati.
Excellent.
Not Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. Whoa.
That's all right.
So I'm from Cleveland, so you're lucky I'm just even acknowledging the Steelers.
Yeah.
So, but what was interesting about them is they made 5 Super Bowl appearances.
The Miami Dolphins.
The Miami Dolphins did. And as early as the 6th Super Bowl, in that they played the Dallas Cowboys in 1971. They lost 24-3, right? But it got them notoriety, and Florida then had something to root around.
Sure.
Because this was the only professional team really kind of in the South.
In anything. So,
So then we see that in 1972, they go back to the Super Bowl.
Gotcha. Now, 72 was a special year.
It was a very special year.
And hence our drink name tonight, which is the Unbeeten Dolphin.
Yep. So they are the only NFL team to ever be unbeaten through the whole season.
So the perfect season.
Yep. And that includes the playoffs.
Right.
Right.
And in those days, there was a little bit of a shorter season.
Correct.
So it's, sometimes they put an asterisk, but it's still, they are the unbeaten Dolphins.
Yep. And nobody has, well, one team's come close, but then they choked in the Super Bowl.
That was it.
So
that was the 72 Dolphins.
Yep. And then, so they won. They beat the Redskins that year, 14-7. So that must have been like a knockdown, drag out.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
And then 1973, they also win against the Vikings. This one in a bigger upset, 24-7.
Yep.
All right. Then there's a little bit of a gap.
Okay.
Because starting the next couple of years, the Steelers come in and they are dominating through the rest of the 1970s. But in 1982, they go back to the Super Bowl and they lose to the Redskins.
Okay.
Actually, I think this is the Joe Theismann Super Bowl. Yeah, where he breaks his leg.
Breaks his leg, and it's not a thing on live
and they kept showing it over and over and over again. And then in 1984 is their last time they go, and they lose in this one, and they lose to one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, Joe Montana. Because they play the 49ers.
Gotcha, the 84.
But who was their quarterback in the 80s?
Well, that would be Dan Marino.
Yeah, and has tons and tons of records, except he's never won a Super Bowl.
Very interesting.
Right? Yeah. So there's a couple guys like him that I think that They're great quarterbacks, but they just can't lead their team to the Super Bowl like Tony Romo.
Yep.
All right. So they have only retired 3 numbers, though.
The Miami Dolphins.
The Miami Dolphins. And so they've retired number 12 for Bob Greasy.
Okay.
13 for Dan Marino, and then 39 for Larry Zonka.
Oh, okay.
And he's probably, to me, the epitome of that 1973 Dolphins team.
Unbeatable team.
Yeah. And both of them, Zonka and Marino, are in the Hall of Fame now.
Yep.
There's a few others that are in there. I think Bob Greasy is as well. Yep. And then their coach.
The coach was Don Shula.
Yeah.
Yes,
Don
the
Shula
famous
was
Don
there.
Shula. Yeah.
And we've seen Don Shula really kind of spread all over Florida with his steakhouse and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So then we get 2 other football teams that are
two other NFL teams in the state of Florida.
Yep.
So once again, not original teams.
Nope.
They're expansion teams like the Miami Dolphins were.
Yep. So the next expansion team is in 1976. And this is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The Bucks. Yeah, which is special to us here in Sarasota because that's our hometown team.
Yeah, but from 1976 to 2000, they sucked.
They were horrible.
And Green Bay in the 80s and 90s were horrible.
Yes.
And they called when they played the Bay of Pigs.
Oh.
Because it's Green Bay and Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they also too at the time they had that special color scheme. They were known as the creamsicles. It was that orange and white with the red highlights. Oh yeah, that was
and then they'll make that big change to the pewter and red. Yeah. And so in 2002 they're going to win their first Super Bowl.
Yep.
All right. And that one they win handily against the Raiders 48-21.
Wow. Yep.
Right. And then we have their second Super Bowl appearance in 2020 against the Kansas City Chiefs, which they win as well.
They win, and they're headed up by Tom Brady.
Yeah, that guy. So, but I think when we look at it, that team of 2002, that's kind of the famous team because that had Warren Sapp and John Lynch and Derek Brooks.
Well, and for all the fans that have been fans for a long time, this is the first time that we actually made it to the big show.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. And but there's one other guy that I want to mention here who's played a big role in the community who's on that early team.
Yep.
And that's Leroy Selman.
Leroy Selman, absolutely. He's probably one of the most famous. And at the time, he was the only one that had made it prior to the Super Bowl team, the only one that made it to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So they have retired. The Buccaneers have retired 3 numbers. They've retired number 55.
Mm-hmm.
Who's 55?
I don't know.
Derek Brooks.
Derek Brooks.
Right. Then 63.
63.
Leroy Selman.
Leroy Selman.
And 99.
And 99, which is Warren Sapp.
And that leaves us with the last football team.
So the last Florida football team is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yep. And they came in as an expansion team in 1995.
Gotcha.
And their partner team, going back to the Bucks, their partner team was the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay.
Right? The Jacksonville's partner team was the Carolina Panthers. Right? Now, what's really interesting about them is they've never made a Super Bowl appearance, but they were the expansion team that made it to the championship game the fastest. So their first season was 95, and in 1997, they're in the championship game.
Which is absolutely amazing because Jacksonville, believe it or not, being a Florida native, is the actual worst city in all of Florida. So, at least in my opinion. So that's awesome. They're more southern Georgia than they are Florida. I don't really like claim them, but okay.
So because they have a much shorter amount of time, they don't have any championships. There's only one guy that has made the Hall of Fame from them, and that's Tony Basile, and he was a great lineman. And they haven't retired any numbers because of that as well.
Once again, I blame the city on that.
Yeah.
So Jacksonville.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, when we think of the sport that's been here the longest, though.
So when I think of anything, like I said, football is probably the biggest picture. But when I think Florida and sports, I think baseball.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Florida has always been known for these preseason games, which is they call them the Grapefruit League here.
Yep.
And then you have their counterpart, which is a bunch of teams that play out in Arizona. They're the Cactus League.
Which that's their spring training. So, obviously baseball, the boys of summer, they always play. But then to be able to play, baseball players have to have like the perfect temperature, the perfect weather to play. It can't, no rain, it can't be anything. So they would do their spring training, even the northern teams down here where it was nice and sunny and warm.
And they all came to different cities. So like we had, for the longest time, the
White Sox.
The White Sox.
We had the Red Sox. We had the White Sox.
I think we had the Reds.
We had the Reds. Yeah.
And now we have the Orioles.
They were in the 80s and 90s. We're the Reds.
And now we have the Orioles.
Yep.
So we've had a lot of different teams here in Soda, and they also have minor league teams because we have like a rookie league here in Florida, and the cities around us. Our closest team is the Bradenton Marauders.
Correct.
Which they are the Pirate.
Gotcha.
Team.
Which the funniest thing though is like even with Sarasota, you'll find out that the minor league teams aren't actually even paired with the Grapefruit League. So the Grapefruit League is the actual professional teams during their spring training.
Yep.
So we're coming out. So like for the Marauders, they're actually in Bradenton, Florida. Spring training, the
major league players
will play there. But then during the regular baseball season, they have a minor league team that plays. Now in Sarasota, this is where the Orioles currently play at Ed Smith Stadium downtown, but they don't have a minor league team. So they only play during that Grapefruit League play.
Yeah. And then in South County, we have
the Braves.
Yeah. And they
the Rays, actually. The Tampa Bay Rays they actually travel down and play in Port Charlotte.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our two baseball teams, though, are both expansion teams from the 90s.
Yeah.
Right. So the first one to come into play was originally known as the Florida Marlins.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And so
because there was no other baseball team, so they could just be Florida.
And I think it was so that they could kind of pull from the rest of the state, because when you're down here and you see people rooting for baseball, you don't see a lot of Rays or Marlins. You see all the teams from up north.
Well, the whole problem is
transplants.
And not only that, we're all transplants. And not only that, but you also, when they're seeing him play, is in that springtime. So basically, it's all the people that are down here for the spring, just like the baseball players are down here to get away from the snow and the cold weather. You have the fans as well. So I always said we have more Boston Red Sox fans in Sarasota than we do anybody else.
Yep. So they were an expansion team, the Marlins, in '93, and their counterpart was the Rockies.
Okay.
All right. Now they are going to, in 4 years, they're going to buy themselves their first World Series. Well, I'm a little biased of that World Series because they did buy it because the next year they sold everything.
So that was the amazing thing with baseball at the time. There was no salary caps.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was, and they have since changed some of the rules and changed some of the pieces with it, but they were the first team to, like as you said, buy a World Series.
Right. And so their first World Series was in 1997. They won 4-3 against my home team, the Cleveland Indians, or now the Cleveland Guardians. And I remember watching all of those games, and it was like a nail biter the whole time.
Yes.
So, and then in 2003, they won their second World Series, and this time it was against the Yankees, which I'm more than happy to see them win.
Absolutely, that's right.
But in 2012, we get a change. So the city of Miami and the county of Miami build them a baseball-centric stadium.
Okay.
All right, and that stadium is where they play today, and they had to agree to change their name to the Miami Marlins for that as well. So they're no longer the Florida Marlins, they're the Miami Marlins.
Which is probably good because we also had another Florida team come to play.
Yeah. And that is here in Tampa.
Yep.
Right? And the original name when they were the expansion team in 1998 was the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. And I remember going to the games when I was first down here, and out in center field there's this big tank with all these rays in it that you could touch and all of that stuff. And that was kind of that defining feature for them.
Very cool gimmick.
Yeah, their partner team when they came in was the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Okay.
Right. Now, in 2007, they're going to make a name change as well. They got a lot of grief for that name, Devil Rays.
Gotcha.
And so
which to me, it's a mean. It's the guy.
It's the one who killed Steve Irwin.
That's right. Exactly.
So that got them so much grief though,
Right.
that they took it out, and their symbol changed from the manta ray on it to more just like a sun ray kind of
A ray of
star.
sunshine, exactly. Yes.
And I remember going to a baseball game, and this old guy, I was with my son, and this old guy says, as soon as they took the devil out of it and the ray from God came down, we started winning. And I was like, oh my God.
Exactly. I still love the throwback days when they put the old jerseys on. So that's good.
So that happened in 2007. Yep. So they've made it to the World Series twice. Unfortunately, they've not won either of their attempts. The first one was in 2008 against the Philadelphia Phillies. The series went 4-1.
Yeah.
And then in 2019, they made it back and they lost to the Dodgers 4-2, 4 games to 2.
Yeah.
So, but Florida has this huge baseball tradition.
Absolutely. It always has, between spring training and everything going up through, and then having the professional teams. So that was football and that was baseball.
Yep.
The third one is
basketball.
So
we eventually are going to have 2 basketball teams.
Yeah.
Right. So they come in a year apart.
Okay.
So one's in the 1988 expansion, and one's in the 1989 expansion.
All right.
So the 1988 expansion is the Miami Heat.
Okay. Once again, down Miami, one of the biggest areas of Florida. We've got the Dolphins, we've got the Marlins, and now we have the Heat.
And they are going to be the team that really has the most presence in the championship.
All right.
Especially during the past 10 years. All right. So the first time they make it to the championship is in 2006, and they play the Dallas Mavericks and they win that series 4-2. Right. But then starting in 2011, they're going to make 4 straight appearances in the NBA championship series. Mm-hmm. Right. So the first time they play the Mavericks again, but they lose to them that time. Right. Then they play the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yep. They win 4-1. Then the closest one is the 2013, which is against this San Antonio Spurs.
Okay.
And that's a 4-game to 3-game series, which they win.
So took it a full 7.
Yep. And then the next year they play the Spurs again, but they lose 4-1.
Gotcha.
And then they appear again in 2020. And this time they play the LA Lakers. Yep. And they lost that. So while they only have they're 50-50,
sure.
So which is pretty good, but they are the team that we've seen in the playoffs the most.
Yeah.
And the big section of that is when they kind of had that dream team there of Dwayne Wade and LeBron and whoever else.
Exactly, they pulled together.
Yeah, Bosh.
Once again, kind of buying a championship.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, what I found was really interesting is they have retired 6 players' numbers, right? Chris Bosh, who was number 1, Dwayne Wade, which was number 3, Tim Hardaway, which was number 10, but then Michael Jordan's number was retired by them as well.
Okay, even though he never played for him.
No, but then I found out the number 23 has been retired from every single NBA team.
Exactly, he's the Jackie Robinson of football, which well deserved.
Yeah. Now Shaq is also retired.
Yep.
His number 32 is retired, and then Alonzo Mourning, number 33. And
it's fun to have Shaq because I'm sure we're going to talk about the next team is actually where Shaq is more famous for.
Mm-hmm. And that is the Orlando Magic.
Yep.
Now they were the expansion team in '89. So they the Heat came in with the Charlotte Hornets.
Yep.
And then the Magic come in with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Okay.
So the NBA had a lot of expansion during that period of time. Now the Magic has gone to the NBA championship only twice.
Yep.
Unfortunately, both times they have not won. The first time was in 1995 against the Houston Rockets, and they got whooped 4-0.
Okay. Yeah.
And then in 2009, they played the Lakers, and it was 4-2. So they only have one retired number as well, besides 23.
Okay. Who's that?
Number 6.
4?
The 6th man.
Ah.
So for their fans, they retired that number because they have really had a very strong fan base.
Which is a very interesting thing to do. That's kind of a cool tradition.
Because
I can see that.
being in Orlando, they pull from Tampa.
Yep.
They pull from St. Pete. They pull from
Daytona and on the other coast. Yep.
And all there. And really kind of gave the center part of the state a team to root for instead of rooting for that Miami team again.
Very cool. That's a neat tradition to do. So
yeah, and that leaves us with hockey.
So hockey, which also too is very popular right now. We've got some cool things to talk about. A little bit disappointing, but also too very proud of a team. But let's talk about first one of the other hockey teams. What are they? Yeah,
we'll start with the other one, even though it's the second one to come to Florida.
Sure, okay.
All right, and they came in the 1993 expansion.
Yep.
And their expansion team partner was made famous by a series of movies.
Okay.
About hockey.
A series of movies. What would that be?
That would be the Mighty Ducks.
Ah, yes, it was the Anaheim Mighty Ducks.
Yep. So,
which is a Disney movie that then actually they created a team around the movie.
Yeah. So they came in with they are the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, not the Anaheim Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
Right. And they've only had one appearance in the Stanley Cup, and that was in 1996, and it was a horrible loss, 4-0 against the Colorado Avalanche. Right.
Which, as we can tell you, is a very tough team.
Yeah. Now they have 3 retired numbers, and I've never heard of any of these guys, so.
Yeah. So either one, they're much more minor of the hockey teams that we have in Florida, because the most important hockey team we have is
the Tampa Bay Lightning.
The Tampa Bay Lightning, which once again is a very difficult today because we actually are coming off of our loss of the Stanley Cup. We still made it to the playoffs. We made it to the championship. We just couldn't close the deal.
So they came into the league in 1992. And their partner team was the Ottawa Senators.
Okay.
Right? So, but they have made 5 appearances in the Stanley Cup. And so their first one was against the Calgary Flames back in 2004. And they won that series 4-3. In 2015, they played again, this time against the Chicago Blackhawks, but they lost that series 4-2.
And hold on. So the funniest part of this whole thing is, once again, we're talking about professional hockey, which is played on ice in a state and a place that never freezes. We never see ice. We never see cold snow. So it's a little bit of a thing. However, we are a dominating team.
Yeah, and they have the arena and the whole rigmarole and show of it is pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
So really, Tampa has really embraced the Lightning and that idea of Thunder. But I think part of that is, too, because of the amount of transplants that are down here.
Probably so.
And you have so many people from up north, and they come down here. They want to see hockey. And you can watch it on TV. But, the closest team for a long time was going back all the way up north to Chicago or New York or wherever the other places they are, Canada. All right? So, and then we get the Tampa Bay Lightning of today. The 2020, the 2021 Stanley Cup champs, right? They beat the Dallas Stars in 2020, 4-2.
Yep.
They beat the Montreal Canadiens last year, 4-1.
Which is a special place in my heart, by the way.
Yeah, right. And then this season, though, they played the Colorado Avalanche, who beat the Florida Panthers, and unfortunately, they beat us 4-2. But it's not like
It was a hell of a run.
And they were all beat up.
Yes.
So,
and that was the thing actually coming out today. So one of the things is that actually my son, who actually, of all things, talk about sports, works for the Buccaneers, he was telling me about the hockey team is that they don't release who their injuries are and who their major injuries are until after their season is completed. So we actually didn't even see today the extent of the injuries that team had, which were major.
Yeah. So, that being said, these guys, I think, to me, hockey is the toughest sport.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
just ask the Hanson brothers.
Yeah. That's a good movie.
Yeah.
But as we look at hockey, they are constantly on the go.
Yep.
You're playing offense and defense.
Yeah.
Now you're switching out and stuff like that, but compared to football or especially baseball, and basketball where, I've got a sore finger, I can't play.
Exactly right.
They are some pretty tough guys. And it's really fun to look at them smile. Too.
Oh, exactly. Missing the teeth across the front.
Yeah. So we really have a ton of professional teams here in the state.
Yeah.
I would argue that besides maybe California, Florida now has the most sports teams of besides California of any other state.
Yeah.
I think we've passed New York again as well.
I believe so also.
Because New York always has a bunch of teams as well.
Exactly.
Even though they don't actually play in New York, most of them. So that is our last episode for this season.
Absolutely. So we're concluding our season right now. Now, we are going to take a little bit of a break next week, where it's 4th of July, obviously, on Monday. So we're not going to have anything going on 4th of July. We're going to do a recap episode on the following week. I believe it's
July 11th.
July 11th. So we'll be here, recap kind of what we talked about. Once again, for those of you guys out in the internet world, we actually also host trivia here afterwards.
Yep.
So we're actually getting ready to go into a trivia tonight. We're having fun. We're at the world famous Bahia Hut, having some awesome drinks and having a good time.
Yeah, and even though we're going to be ending the season and we're going to take a break on doing the podcast for the rest of July, we're still going to be here every Monday doing trivia. And we're just going to expand trivia a little bit, the format of it to go a little bit longer.
So have a fun time. So if you guys make it down, please come on down to the Bahia Hut. We got fun prizes. We've got absolutely delicious drinks.
Yeah.
And we'll have a good time.
The new prize that we got.
Oh, we got some awesome
actually these really cool cups made out of actual bamboo.
Oh, with our lovely Tiki Things logo made out of bamboo. How awesome is that? So people will be winning the prize tonight as well. We also have, they have the Sneaky Tiki drink, which actually is on sale for $28. So we've got these awesome, cool terracotta tiki mugs at the Bahia Hut. Come on down, give one a whirl. They'll put a drink in it for you, and all will be good.
Now, I wonder if I can just cut down all that goddamn bamboo in my yard and give it to him and let them make cups.
I don't know. That might be a thing, but we'll see.
So,
but these are for the winners tonight. So the trivia winners, if you know a lot of good knowledge. Tonight will be about sports.
Yeah.
So it'll be a fun night. And we've got a big crew, audience here tonight. So wave everybody, yay! So we'll have a good all night. So we appreciate y'all coming down.
And we'll see you next week.
Absolutely.
Or 2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Enjoy your alcohol, your fireworks, and your barbecuing.
America.